So it is 9:49 p.m. here locally on the west coast of the U.S., and we're getting opening day info that there are some real problems with at least the Belgian printing of Outsiders. Now, let's get this out of the way up front before we go into the break. This isn't LSS's fault necessarily. Everybody here loves LSS. That's why we are here. But it is their responsibility, even at a low level, and yes, this is a problem. So info is coming in as we get it, but there's enough at this point to say that there are some issues with Outsiders. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Fab folks. Thanks for joining us for an ad hoc shoot. And today I'm joined by Sean, aka Beer Cow. How's it going, my man?
Good. How are you?
Good. So Sean is the one who actually made me aware of this issue earlier today, and then I started going to town and looking across the web, and we're getting multiple reports from multiple sources. We have video evidence from one source so far, and we have a very reliable source that both of us know personally, if not. Did you see it personally, Sean?
I didn't see it personally. I came into the shop, I think, shortly after they left. But when I walked into the shop, one of the co-owners there was like, "Oh, you got to talk to Travis. Like, something crazy just happened." I was like, "Oh, hopefully good crazy." I don't know, right?
Well, I mean, it is good crazy depending on which side of the fence you're on, I suppose, right? But
sure. Yeah.
So anyway, hard discussion tonight. So what are you drinking this evening, my friend?
Ooh, I got Breakside's Portland IPA.
Interesting.
It might be a newer one from them. It's pretty tasty.
I am on Breakside as well. I'm on their IPA. We didn't even plan that, folks. Didn't even plan that.
One of my favorites.
So, all right, as we go through this, I'll be throwing images up. Again, obviously, folks, there's no script for this. This is ad hoc. But to summarize the issue, basically, we've been getting what the community's been calling God boxes now, or God cases, as it may be. And this is specifically, at least as we know right now, pertaining to the Belgium-specific printing, aka the paper packs of Outsiders. And do keep in mind that the U.S. has been cracking packs now for, I don't know, about 15 hours max, maybe. But we've seen multiple cases. And by cases, I mean incidents of cases. But the gist is that these people are getting, 8 to a billion?
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. So I'm flipping around for all the images I have, again, ad hoc, but this is the image that was posted by Savage Lands News of what happened here locally in PDX. We also have, Sean will not be able to see this because I'll be doing it in editing, but we have an image from somewhere in California. This was posted by Sharina Kano on the Facebooks, where they have an outlier box. They got 14 legendaries in one box. We have one from NorCal. This was posted by Shin Wee, but I think he was resharing it, where they had a God case opened. Oh, this was from a lone box, not from a case, where they got a whole bunch. I don't know, you can see the picture there. And it goes on and on and on. Now, obviously, the discussion around this was, we don't believe it, you're full of crud, right? That was kind of the initial reaction from the internet, which I think is fair. But then about an hour later, we had a video posted I will link below. In editing, I will also put up some screenshots from that video. I just don't have them available now. The individual was about 8 packs into his box. It started recording, because, if you're not recording your box while you're opening it, you're not going to know, right? So he got that, and he was getting a hit every 1 to 2 packs of an L. And I don't know, I personally think this is a big deal. So let's chat. So Sean, that's why I brought you on. I think this is a big deal. Is this a big deal? What do you think? What's the story?
Yeah, I think it has to be, right? It's a big deal either on the printer's end. Well, it's for sure a big deal on the printer's end. It's a big deal because either we're looking at a lot of cases that should have received legendary cards didn't, or we're seeing a huge saturation of an overprint of like a whole sheet of additional L's just dropping into boxes, which would,
Well, it's more than a sheet, right? I mean,
well,
the
oh, sure,
sheets.
yeah, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
many sheets, but yeah, basically either we're saying that we have concentrated the majority of the L's all in one place, or we're saying that we have removed all of the L's that should have gone into all of these other cases, and there's going to be many cases with no L's, right? So financially, what does that do to the market, and what does it do to the like desirability to open sealed product?
Well, desirable to open sealed product is zero, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's what
probably.
we saw during, in streaky sets like Dynasty. You didn't want to open unless, well, let me rephrase that. If you are the person who's opening 500 boxes, 80 cases, whatever it is, you don't care. Right? But if you are a normal player, this is awful, I think. Right. I mean, unless you pull the God box, then it's amazing. But
yeah,
right, this is bad. But that's to the player feelings. Now to the other people, I mean, I don't really care. People are going to smash dislikes on this. I don't really care. But to LSS, like, does this kill the game? Let's be clear. This is not going to kill the game. People who love Fab are going to keep playing Fab. But from a speculator standpoint, like, people have been watching the prices of things and whether it's worth opening the boxes or not. And, like, I can't see this not having an effect on that.
Yeah.
Or am I wrong? I mean, talk me down.
No, I don't think you are wrong. I just don't know really what the outcome is, right? Because either we find out there is way more legendaries out there than were intended, in which case the legendary price goes down, or we're looking at a situation where very small amounts of people have all of them, and if they're playable and desirable, they will be very expensive, probably. Because if I pulled 15 trenches, maybe I'd just sit on them, wait and see if like trench gets used in a deck that wins worlds or something. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to claim. I mean, I work in manufacturing, but obviously not of cards, so I don't know how it works. I'm not going to claim to be an expert in it, but I'm pretty sure that if LSS is like, we want 1 million boxes, that they print the cards and the sheets that would go into those 1 million boxes. So this screams to me to be a distribution issue, not that we made too many L's and just threw them in a case, right?
Yeah.
Which implies then that, yes, like you mentioned, there are, I mean, and to be clear, this is one case, one box out of millions of cases, right? Let's be very clear about that. But somebody, in this case, in this picture we're showing right now, one person is sitting on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it was 3 per box, which is consistent with what we saw in the other boxes. Somebody's sitting on 12 quivers or 12 vambraces. I mean, how is that different than what a lot of people would call a buyout? Except in this case, they didn't buy them. Right?
Yeah. They bought them very cheaply.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's fair. But you see what I'm driving at, right? Is like what you try to do effectively in a buyout. Now, I'm not advocating buyouts. I'm not going through the math of buyouts, right? But the functional idea behind a buyout, the basic idea is that you grab up stuff and you try to essentially make the supply less. That's the concept behind a buyout. And how is this different than that? Except that it wasn't intentional, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I should say too, like, majority of my friends who've opened product today, they're still seeing their L's in their boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But the folks who opened that particular case opened a case previously, like immediately before, from the same source, and had no cold file and no L in the box.
Mm-hmm. And this was taking the foil slot in the packs, right? That's at least what I saw from the other video.
I believe so. Like almost all of those are rainbow foils. I think there was one cold foil legendary and possibly a cold foil fable. They got 6 fables out of that case as well, which is bonkers.
Right. So that, that I think supports the collation issue that the other slots weren't affected, right? Oh, I mean, maybe not. Well, but yeah, I mean, it has to go somewhere, right? There's an in minus out thing. Like, if you have too many of one, you have either that or there's a pile of cards sitting somewhere, right? So
yeah, I mean, we'll see when the video comes out, but I'm 90% sure that they weren't pulling them out of the rare slot or the off common that should be a rare slot for this set.
Right. Well, and as you mentioned, they still got their cold foil. So
you get one,
that slot, which is in the token slot, right? So that was unaffected. So yeah. All right. So the next thing I want to ping you on, because this has been, I'm a little riled up about it, right? The fab copium that we're seeing, right? That's the term people used to use when the prices were crashing for all the speculators, and us players were like, ha. But there's a lot of people out there who are continuing to deny that this is real. We've seen some joke memes go up, because it's the internet, everybody's got a meme on it. But people are memeing on it and downplaying it. Like, why do people not think this is a big deal?
I mean, probably they just don't understand actually how it works and how the market works, right? Like, I was told, so when I walked in and I heard the thing, and I'm pretty new to the TCG world, honestly, and the response that I had was like, no way, that's unbelievable. It's like, I have it on video, it's all right here. And I'm like, wow, that's insane. Like, I wish that was mine. And one of the responses of a person in the room was like, doesn't this just destroy the game? Doesn't this absolutely tank our markets? Like, and this is an industry professional who works in it daily. The prices matter, right? It's a livelihood issue for them, and if they are concerned, probably we should be concerned, right? That's kind of where I'm landing. But initially I was excited for the person who had it.
Well, sure.
It didn't even occur to me initially that this person should have got maybe one Fable, not 5 for 6, and they probably should have got one L and not 62. And then thinking beyond that, saying, that means that 60 other people who invested in a box don't get their L if it's finite, right? Like if it was printed properly in the way it was intended and distributed poorly, then it's a problem, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's more my question is there would be people who argue that it's not a big deal because the people who drive so much of the conversation in Flesh and Blood are the people who do open 500 boxes.
Yeah, I know personally, if I bought a case and I didn't get an L, I would feel pretty cheated, even though it's not guaranteed, and it hasn't been. And I mean, I've even watched you open a case and hit no L, and it was pretty feel bad. It was a little bit salty at the end of that video.
It was.
Yeah. So there's, it's not guaranteed, but we have been led to believe that if you buy a case, you're going to get something of value, whether it pays for your case or not, probably not at this point. In the old days, maybe it did. You should at least get a card that is worth $50 to $200.
Yeah, well, let's not put a dollar value on it because that'll make people be like, "Oh, you're right." But you should get something that you're happy at opening. Yeah, and
right. Yeah.
All of that aside, right? This is, I think, my thesis statement for it. And to be clear, the reason I time-stamped this going in is this is new news. We are hot off the press on this. This is our first reaction, and our opinions could be different when we wake up in the morning. But my take on this, my thesis statement for how I feel right now, is that this has made it worse. Flesh and Blood has always, let me restart. Flesh and Blood has always been fighting since its very inception this feeling that Fab is for the big boys and not for the normal people. And if we are now in a situation where a normal person can't go into Flesh and Blood or their LGS, and buy a case, a case, which most people can't just go buy a case. Like, let's be very clear about that, right? So if a normal person, quote unquote, be lenient with me comments on that. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
If a normal player can't go in and just buy their case on opening day and expect to get something good, like if the expectation is that in order to get quote unquote value out of your purchase, you have to buy 50 cases or whatever the number is to make it level out, that is not helping that. And that is like the longest thesis statement ever. I get it. But I wanted to explain myself as I went. I mean, this is, I think, again, I don't think, you were asking me before, so let's go into that, right? You were asking me offline, which is why we decided to shoot this. You said, well, what does LSS do about it?
Right, yeah.
I don't think they do anything about it. I mean, what do they do? Like, what are they can do product recall? Like, no one's going to send back the L. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Their article on, it'll take, because they'll deal with this on Monday when they get, so it'll be in the U.S. it'll be Sunday afternoon when they get in on Monday morning. They send off an email to whomever in Belgium, takes them a day to get back to them. We'll investigate. They get back to them on Wednesday. We'll get a press release in. Maybe because it's LSS, we get a press release early next week that says we're aware of issues and we're looking into it. That's what it'll say. And then maybe 10 days later, we get something that says less than 1% of the boxes have been miscollated. Thanks for buying your product. I mean, what else do they do?
I don't know. Especially when, like, they do have, like, a little bit of a high horse to sit on and say, we didn't do it, right? We hired a...
Well, I mean, it's still there. No, I mean,
right.
I agree, but it's still ultimately their responsibility, right? I mean, you had also, again, this was offline, but you had said, you know, Magic has certainly screwed up in the past, and of course they probably have. I don't know when it was, but I'm sure they have, right? But, like, if Wizards were to, like, screw up a printing tomorrow, nobody would be like, God damn Cardamundi. They'd be like, God, Wizards screwed up again, right? But then now we're taking the other flip and we're like, well, it wasn't LSS's fault, it was Cardamundi. You know what I mean? Like, just because we love LSS, and we do, doesn't mean that they're not ultimately the ones held responsible for this, right?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
And to be clear, I'm really happy that I don't work for LSS right now. They probably saw those posts and took a couple shots of whiskey and went to bed and said, well, shit.
Yeah. Well, I don't work there, and I was sitting there being like, how would you even handle that? It affects me as a player and a hobbyist. It doesn't affect me professionally, and I was stressed out for them, honestly. Yeah.
I mean, realistically though, right? Let's pull it back in and not go all nuclear. I mean, the actual impact of this is probably minimal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, long term, right?
Yeah. And you could argue it couldn't have happened to a better set, right? There's not really any new classes being put out right now. It affects only 3. You know, none of the... Not saying that the generic L that's out there is bad. I think it's maybe the best one in the set, but it's not a, like, game-changing level card. It's not a CNC. It's not...
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? So it's like, well, we broke this thing, and some people are going to get lots and lots of decent cards, but it only affects 3 classes, and... Right? I don't know.
So if I can summarize... At least so what you're saying is, like, let's say, because we're guessing, let's say the prices do go to $250 per L.
Sure.
Your point is that it is low impact.
It's low impact based on the amount of classes that it affects. And
I think that's a fair argument. I mean, it doesn't, like, if you want to flick knives, it doesn't change your opinion that you're pissed off, but...
Right, yeah.
You have a fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. You go play Bravo for $300 and still be kind of meta relevant. Like you'd maybe spike a tournament with a $250 Bravo deck.
Yeah.
Or you can buy New Horizons. You know what I mean? Like, it's... Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you this, and then we'll get out of here. And I'm sure during the time we've been doing this, the time it'll take me to upload, there will be more information that posts. So, I'll put what I can in the comments, and thank you all for watching and sticking with us. But let me ask you this, Sean. I mean, does this really change anything for you in terms of your purchasing decisions, not necessarily for this set, but going forward? Where are you at?
For me, no, I don't think it does. In fact, for this set, I decided to try something new because my MO is not to buy a case because I don't have case money all the time. So I usually will try to buy a box at each of the LGSs that I really frequent, and then I will buy singles. And this time around, I said, I'm really only interested in playing one of these classes. I'll help out. I'll get my bulk probably from my friends who bought too many, and then I'll purchase M's. And if the L is needed, then I'll buy the L. Right. So trying something different for myself this time. So for this set, it makes absolutely no difference to me.
Right.
And I will assume that LSS and their printers from here, going forward, are going to be much more on top of their quality control. So,
I mean, it's not like it's either of their first time at the rodeo.
Sure,
something happened. I mean,
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I will move forward with my love of the game and assume the best of everyone who is involved in the production end.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to live.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, if it turns out, which it very likely does, right? But if it turns out that those L's came from, if there was only 1 million of each L printed, and it turns out that those L's, 10% of them ended up in the hands of the same 4 people.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. That's a bummer. But I don't think this kills. My original reaction was oh snap, and I do think that there are after the surgical extraction snafu.
Yeah.
And after this, I mean, it indicates that there might be some sort of issue, right? And fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? And
and honestly, the surgical extraction piece is why I was only interested in one class for this set.
Because you tapped out of Assassin, said screw it?
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to pay $180 for 3 cards in one class that are, I'll pay the money for the Easter eggs, and I'll pay the money for the Art of Wars, and I'll pay the money for the CNCs, because I can drop those into any deck I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm certainly not going to drop $180 on 3 cards that may or may not even be necessary for the deck to perform. And currently, Assassin's not there, right? It wasn't there, at least at the time. So I'm I'm not going to invest the money there. Surgical extractions really aren't that much more affordable still, and I'm it's good. I don't need to play.
Yeah, they're still what, $48, $50? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to play Assassin outside of Commoner. I might try it in Commoner, but you can play anything in Commoner for $5. So whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours on that, but I mean, we're not going to. But I think so many people in these discussions. I mean, so much of it is a problem in Flesh and Blood. It is. That so much of the communication and so much of it, and if you argue with them, you're just bullied out of the community. It's the truth. So much of the conversation is driven by the people who have the money in this game. And that's why this issue, I think, is going to become a non-issue, because the people who bought 100 cases don't care. And the people who go in and buy a box or a case got stepped on. But when they bitch on the Facebook, they'll just get memed out of the Facebook or the Twitters or whatever the kids are using these days. And I don't know. If if I sound salty, it's because I am a little bit. Like I think it's really. I was very disappointed in the community at large for memeing this and pretending that people were making it up. Right? Comments like, this didn't happen. It's like, there's literally a video of it happening. No, they weighed the packs beforehand. That is literally a comment that happened. They weighed the packs beforehand and stacked it and made the video. To what end? Like, why? And people saying that just because they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I get it that people love Fab. It's great. I love Fab too. But it doesn't mean, like, loving something doesn't mean that you ignore that there's whatever. Cheers with me, Sean. Drink our sorrows.
Got it, brother. I think it is a matter of time that, like, there's enough box opening channels out there. Like, eventually, you're going to watch someone crack the cellophane on a box, or on a box, and then the cellophane on the case, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, crack the seal.
Yep, it's going to happen live. It's going to happen uninterrupted, and people are not going to be able to say it didn't happen because it is literally happening live, right? On, like, Whatnot.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. It's driving. It's actually like made my heart. I mean, they're living rent free in my head right now because it just people, man. Like, you can love something and still think that it needs improved. I just don't get it. But whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. But ultimately, we'll be at our armory on Saturday, right? So.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to play games.
Sounds good. Yeah, we're excited to draft it, even if and for draft, you know what? That's the thing. It's the best draft set ever, which after watching Sealed last weekend, I think it probably will be. And
I'm very excited.
It doesn't matter if there's a legendary in your case for that. So that's a fair point. Fair point.
If we crack a God box for our draft, that will be very exciting for 8 people.
Actually, what do you even do then? Like, you just pass a Vambrace? Like, I wound up with 2 Vambraces. I guess I only have 1 glove slot. Like, can I trade you a red back? I don't know, man.
Because it's rainbow foil, so you have to pass it.
Yeah.
Pass it. I love it. I mean, I don't know. I'll just keep them all value draft and then lose one of my games. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously, right? But, no, I mean, I honestly, if you were sitting at any table, I don't care how much you hate the dude on the other side of the table. Like, if you're sitting at any table and you realize you crack a God box, there is no way that table doesn't make a gentleman's agreement or gentle person's agreement to spread the love. Like, I don't care how toxic people are. Like, people are going to make that because they don't want to get screwed either, right?
Yeah, we only got 15 L's. Yeah, sorry, bud, you only get 1.
Yeah. Well, Andrew left with 4 L's and I only left with 3.
Yeah. Yeah, what a conversation that would be.
All right, whatever. Okay, man, well, thank you for dropping everything in chat. I mean, first off, making me aware, and then actually, to be fair, you made me waste my evening like figuring out what the hell was going on. But no, thank you for dropping everything and dialing in on your potato phone. We do appreciate it. And
yep.
Yeah. Any shout outs you want to give before we get out of y'all?
Oh man. Yeah, Gone Guy. Awesome place to go. Fab Foundry, buy your singles there. If you local, Discs and Dice, Going Gaming. They're owned by great people. Do Fab in Portland. Travel here, it's fun.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks. Thanks you all for sticking with us. Wow, we went 30 minutes. Yeah. Well, 28 minutes probably. Well, anyway.
I'm chatting.
Like I said, ad hoc. Wanted to call him in. Thanks, Sean. And if nothing else, folks, say it with me, Sean. Go Commando.